They always talk about your golden years, which is like after your kids are out of the house and all that stuff. And I think the golden years are the years that you're with your kids, that your kids are growing up. So I'd actually rather work harder on my career after they're out of the house than spend my entire life in the pursuit of worldly greatness, money, cash, reserves, everything that you can think of while they're growing up. So talk about a pandemic. There's a pandemic of fathers who leave their kids. We have a serious issue with moms being left to raise their kids by themselves, single moms. And it really affects our inner cities. It really affects the states and the world, really.
If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard me and Josh talk about MWI, which is our digital marketing agency. If you're new around here, this may be a first introduction to MWI. We're a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in everything from website design and development to search engine optimization and all forms of paid advertising, whether it's paid social advertising or paid search advertising, content marketing, digital PR, social media management. Basically anything a business needs to strengthen and grow their digital footprint is what we do over at MWI. The website is mwi.com. And for any listeners of the Hope Strategy podcast, I'd love to offer a free 20-minute consultation with yours truly to talk about your business, to talk about your goals, to understand, what you need to be doing from a digital marketing strategy and action plan standpoint in order to yield some results and grow your business online. So please reach out at mwi.com/hope strategy. That's mwi.com/hope strategy to sign up, and we will be in touch. Now back to the show. Welcome to the Hope Strategy podcast. I am here with Josh Dimley. How are you today, Josh? I feel like we haven't done this for a while.
It has been a little while since we recorded an episode, at least together.
Yeah, I've done a couple. There's some cool stuff coming out, which I don't even think you and I have talked about as much, with like the orphan myth thing that I was working on with Lindsay Hadley. So I'll tell you about that later. But today we talked with Greg Trimble. Greg is the founder and partner of Lemonade Stand, which is an internet marketing agency. Initially started in California. Now they're based up in Utah. He also has a couple other projects that he works on. Yala, which is a software solution. It's a team management and collaboration software. And then another project called Stride with 2 I's. It's an online application for kids and parents to achieve goals. We had a really good conversation with him. He had some really big early, late teens, early 20s, big pivotal transitional moments in his life where he was a really good baseball player, was playing college baseball, had some scholarships on the line, had some scouts from the MLB looking at him very seriously and wanting to pursue him. And he changed his course of what had been his course for up to that point, his entire life of, I want to be a professional baseball player, to I'm searching for happiness in what appear to be the wrong places. I'm not scratching the itch, so to speak, that is keeping me up at night. And he dedicated, it seems like kind of overnight from what we talked about, his life to serving others and trying to, not that he became a monk and, took off and whatever, but he just said, I'm going to focus on other things. I'm going to focus on serving others. And for him, there were some religious goals that he set, and it changed his life forever. And he's done a lot of cool stuff ever since then. It was a really insightful, cool discussion with somebody that had to make some tough choices at an early age.
Yeah, great discussion about finding meaning and how we're driven as human beings to find meaning in life. And he wasn't getting it from the baseball career. He said he was miserable, and he decided to do something else that would bring true meaning into his life, which I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you give that up and say, I'm not going to be a professional baseball player. I'm going to give up the millions. I'm going to give up that career. I'm going to give up my dream because it
sounds like it wasn't a pipe dream either. It sounds like it wasn't he had prospects. He had things that he was actively engaged in this pursuit. And it was like, quick pivot.
And he just walked away.
Yeah. We talk a lot about that at our agency and stuff, but just like, that's a big thing for me in life, is like finding fulfillment. And I am fully aware that some people don't have the ability or privilege to be like, well, I'm just doing it. Because sometimes people, entrepreneurs especially, talk about like, if you don't love it, don't do it. It's like, well, what if I have 3 kids at home that need to be fed and I kind of have to? It's like sometimes you get stuck between a rock and a hard place. But there's other ways to find fulfillment. I'm a big believer, and just like Greg kind of told it, like he wasn't doing what he felt like he was supposed to be doing. He wasn't finding that fulfillment that was kind of true to his core. And so as hard as that must have been, given something that he really loved, he made a change, and now he's gone on to start. In college, he started a business that he sold, a tech company that he sold, and it funded other entrepreneurial endeavors. He's written 4 books with publishing deals. He started a blog that was insanely popular and somewhat controversial, depending on, who you are. And we talked all about how he dealt with online hate that turned into in-person hate, from people that read stuff that he wrote, and and how hard that was on him, and kind of having to figure out how to navigate this type of bullying that he was getting for some of the content he was putting out there with tens of millions of views. And anyways, really, really cool guy, genuine. I love, his whole, they're technically a competitor of ours at our agency. He's another agency owner, but I couldn't be more excited to have him on the show and hear that there's other businesses out there that are like-minded, that are doing similar things that, we try to do as far as doing good and being good and finding great partners and stuff. So yeah, Josh has known Greg for a while. I've known him for quite a while, and it was a real pleasure to get to know him even better in the interview setting.
Just a good guy.
Yeah. Good dude. Enjoy this conversation with Greg Trimble. Cue the music.
Something is happening in our world.
Time is very precious. I'm going to show you how great I am.
Hope in the face of difficulty.
More than machinery, we need humanity.
Hope in the face of uncertainty.
I'm better now than I was. I'm experienced now.
Changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it.
The audacity of hope.
This is the Hope Strategy Podcast with Corey Blake and Josh Steinley.
I found you the way a lot of people have found you, which was, 6 or 7 years ago. On Facebook, on one of your blog posts that you did. And so then I followed your blog, and I read quite a bit of the content that you pushed out, and whether I wanted to or not, it was getting shared by somebody in my network, and I was seeing it. I mean, there for a while, it seems like I was seeing Greg Trimble content pop up everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested to kind of hear your background and learn more about you, kind of where you're coming from and stuff. I read some cool stories as I was doing some research. And then I want to kind of roll it into the entrepreneurial stuff. And so anyways, we'll try our best in an hour to run the gamut here on what's been a very fulfilled life at this point. I guess well, my first question is, how did you cry when you watched that YouTube video I found of all of your employees telling you how much they loved you on your 40th birthday?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was pretty special. I had no idea that was coming, and that means a lot, because, you spend a third of your life with these people, and they become sort of the family that you choose, right? That's kind of how we've deemed it. You don't choose the family you're born into, but you kind of choose your work family. And you spend a great deal of your life with those people, and to hear them, say those sorts of things, it's been meaningful to me, to build a culture like that.
That was awesome. Sitting in the same seat as you at our company, I was like, man, that was cool. On my birthday, they did on our weekly team meeting. It was funny. They had everybody go out and do their research and find a picture of me from at some point in my life. And then I had to talk about what was going on in the picture. It was kind of funny. And but yeah, I watched that and I was like, oh man, this had to have been definitely a pull at the heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah.
As you built the company and stuff. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So you grew up in California, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the upbringing and what was your upbringing all about?
I did. Yeah. I grew up in Southern California and just played a lot of baseball. I was, that was kind of the direction for me. I wanted to play professional baseball, played nonstop, it's funny, these choices that you make, right? But, I had to forego any scholarships that I would have gotten because I decided to play in Dodger Stadium the same day that I was supposed to take my SATs. So, choose between taking your SATs or playing in Dodger Stadium for your CIF final. I chose Dodger Stadium, and that disqualified me from any scholarships I had. So I went and played at junior college, End up playing.
It disqualified you because you have to take the SAT in order to qualify for.
Yeah,
scholarship.
just my my academic side wasn't going to qualify me.
Okay.
So I ended up going to a junior college, and that's where a lot of baseball players end up that didn't have the grades or the SAT scores to go. That it's like a little breeding ground for good ball players in Southern California. And so I ended up playing at Orange Coast College. Just was surfing every day, living the dream, playing baseball. Signed a full scholarship in Hawaii, actually at HP.
Oh, really?
And then had some interest from some major league scouts in my sophomore year. And then,
so did you go out to UHP then?
No, I signed the scholarship, and then I had sort of a life-changing turn of events at about age 21, I'd say.
Okay.
And ended up serving a mission for my church, and the rest is history.
So you've got the baseball is everything. I grew up playing baseball a lot, and then I went to high school in St. George where I played baseball year round.
Yep.
I never pursued it after that, but you're playing at junior college. You get a full scholarship to go play in Hawaii,
which is all I wanted to do. Surf and play baseball.
I can imagine. I mean, if you're from Southern California and you're surfing and play baseball, the only better place other than Southern California to do that would be Hawaii.
Yep.
Especially right there down towards. Anyways, that's amazing. So, and then obviously we want to talk about this life-changing event, right? So you have a moment where you pivot, and obviously hindsight now is 2020, but that turns out, and I don't know the full story yet, but that I'm assuming was a drastic, pivotal, life-changing moment in the direction.
It was drastic. Yeah.
What was the experience?
Well, it was the day before my first day of my sophomore season at Orange Coast College, and I was the team captain. I was ready to go. Season's going to start.
What position did you play?
Played first base.
Awesome.
And so I just had I don't know what it was. I would call it a spiritual experience. The night before, it was like I could visualize all these things that I should be doing in life that I wasn't doing. And what was really interesting is I felt like I had everything that any young man would want to have in his life at that time, which was I had a nice, and this was a day with like lifted trucks were awesome. I had a big black lifted truck, bigger super swamper tires. I had three or four surfboards. I'm surfing every day. I'm playing baseball every day. I'm hanging out with tons of friends. And you think, gosh, like this is the life, right? 20 years old. And, but when I would go home at night, I would lay my head down on my pillow, and I was miserable, and I couldn't figure out what is wrong? What's wrong with you? You should be so happy about where you're at. And I came to realize that, a lot of that was because my entire outlook was self-centered. I was focused on myself and my own happiness, and moving from fun to fun to fun to fun to fun, rather than finding lasting joy and lasting happiness, which I found in the form of looking outward and serving other people. And so, that changed everything. I just had this feeling and this vision that I needed to go out and serve a mission. It was late for most missionaries that would go out. I was like 22.
Normally you'd be on the way home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was kind of feeling like a big loser, right? Like, I'm going to go out there and do this.
So before this, then at the age of 19, which at that time was when you could have, I guess, gone out to start.
Yeah.
Was there a big decision at that point? Do I go and serve a mission, or do I play baseball? Or at that point, were you just like, no brainer, I don't want to serve a mission, I'm playing baseball?
I didn't grow up singing that song. I hope they call me on a mission. Really, it was like, I hope they call me to the big leagues. It was baseball. I wanted to play baseball, and I didn't. I thought about it, like, okay, I gave it some thought, and then I'm like, no, just one more. I'm going to keep playing baseball. One more year of baseball.
So anybody that's listening that has no idea what we're talking about, because there's probably a lot of them. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You've heard us interview, if you've listened to some of the episodes, other members of the same faith. But at 19, now at 18, young men are asked to, and in a lot of ways you could say expected to, serve 2 years of their life in a place that they don't know where they're going to go. Right. So you basically turn in, now it's online, you turn in some paperwork, and then 2 weeks later, or I guess now it's a lot, I think it's like a couple days really, because of the internet, but you get a letter back and you open it up, and basically your fate is determined for the next,
your life
2
has
years.
changed forever.
Yeah. Like for me, it was, hey, you're going to Guatemala. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know. So Josh, Brazil. And where did you go on your mission, Greg?
I went to Michigan.
Okay. So Michigan. So you can see it's all like, I'm in Central America. Josh is in South America. I've got buddies that were in, Japan. You've got Greg, who's on in Michigan.
Freezing my butt off.
Yeah. But to try to like paint a picture here, there is a very big expectation. And this is, if you're even affiliated even remotely with the church as a member of the church, there is a whole stigma and expectation. I keep saying that, but like you go on a mission, right? And it weighs on people one way or the other, and so at that point for you,
and back then it was really, you go when you're 19, and if you don't go when you're 19, there's something wrong with you. So like, what's the problem? What's wrong with you? I think it's a little bit less that way today, but back then it was definitely, you don't go when you're 19, there must be something wrong. So here you are, you're 21, and you're like, oh man.
Well, you know what's funny, Josh, is I did not care at all about that at the time. I just did not care. I just, I didn't really go to all the activities. I wasn't, my parents didn't pressure me. But you are right. There's a lot of pressure back then, especially, but at that time, it just wasn't something. I wasn't even going to church. I lived in a baseball house, a bunch of baseball buddies. All I know is I laid my head down on my pillow at night, and I could not figure out why. I was so miserable. I was lacking something. I wasn't living up to what I felt like I should be doing in my life. And I think a lot of people come to those realizations and have those moments in their life. I mean, it's almost like you guys with MWI, right? You get to a point where you're like, hey, what are we doing? I want to do something that means more to other people and to yourselves. And I think we all have a lot of those experiences. It's just what we do with those promptings that go in those directions.
Yeah. And this is one thing I love about this podcast is that we've talked to so many different peoples of so many different creeds and faiths and backgrounds and cultures and ethnicities. And these moments are omnipresent in all of the stories. It's not like, you only had those types of moments because you believe in God, or you only had that because you don't believe in God, or because you're from this place. And I love the way that you're expressing it is, it wasn't you didn't have some overwhelming feel. I mean, you had like the context because of the faith that you knew of at the time, right? And because even if you weren't a super active member in that faith, but you knew you had something to work with, but the feeling wasn't like, it sounds like the feeling was much more human than that. It was, you need to stop looking inward and look outward. You need to stop worrying so much about yourself. And I don't care where you're from or what you believe. Happiness, you can look up all the research you need. That happiness comes when you're looking outside of yourself, whether that's you become a parent and all of a sudden you learn to love on a whole new level, or you're in your community and you're giving back, or you're helping the homeless, whatever it means. So when you're looking outside of yourself, that happiness has to come. So what did that transition look like? So now okay, I could go to Hawaii and play baseball. I'm starting my sophomore year. I've got all these prospects. How do you now, as a 21-year-old, have the guts to turn all of that down? And what did that next prospect look like?
Yeah, I was crazy. I got yelled at a lot. I got cussed at a lot. My college coaches, both at where I was at currently, and then did you sign with HBU? I had signed, and that's a lot of paperwork, and it's a lot. You're lining up your team for the next year, and I felt so horrible, but I just had to do it. And they said, "What are you thinking? What are you doing?" It's crazy. I actually, when I quit my team, I went and got a job at Coco's as a stinking hostess. Can you imagine? I'm working as a hostess on Coco's on PCH down in Corona Del Mar. And the regional Philly scout went to the baseball field, asked the coaches, where's Greg at? And they told him where I was working. And this guy came in and made a scene in the lobby of this Coco's where I was working at. And he's like, I feel like an idiot. I'm standing there with an apron on. as a hostess. And he says, "Oh, what are you doing? You're throwing your life away, man." Like, and he said, if you change your mind, here's my card, call me. And I had made my decision. And funny enough, I had actually met a girl 3 weeks after I quit everything. Her name was Kristen. We dated. I wanted to marry her. I was 22, and we ended up getting engaged, and I still went on my mission. She waited for me, and we're married today. So that was kind of like the biggest, childhood, teenage, young adult journey that really has shaped everything. You had, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland on this podcast, and I remember a quote that he said that everything in his life, which is good, has come to him as a desire to serve a mission. So again, I know there's people of all different faiths and creeds and backgrounds that are listening to this, but just in the context of making a decision early on to commit your life, and dedicate it to serving others, it's life-changing, to instill hope like you guys are doing, to instill hope in other people for things that are more important.
Yeah. I think that's again, take religion out of it. If you want to, don't, if you don't want to, but if you do want to, just the lesson there and just that process, that kind of arc right there of like, you're working really hard towards something, believing that is what exactly you should be doing, the job you should be doing, or in this case, baseball, and pursuing that. And then you weren't finding that fulfillment, right? To where you rest your head at night. Like you said, you lay your head down and you feel fulfilled, accomplished. Mm-hmm. I've talked a lot about these experiences in life, where those moments in my life where I've felt like, oh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be in this moment. Like you can kind of feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. Like a lot of things just came together in a way that this is where I'm supposed to be. It sounds like that was one of those moments for you where it was like that moment of having that change of heart and that change of direction obviously has panned out. So
it shaped everything.
Were there moments that next 2 years where now it may seem in your head like I'm serving, I'm this big, this big thing I'm going to do. Obviously, as all three of us know, and as many, anybody that's done any hard work, especially when you're not getting paid for it and stuff, has learned that it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and that it's tough. Yeah. So were there any moments there once you were out that you said, what did I do again? I'm supposed to be in Hawaii surfing and playing baseball right now.
Yeah. It was the hardest 2 years of my life for sure. And it's just hard. It's a really hard work. And just kind of going back to just how it shaped everything that I've done. It's made everything else in life so much easier, Yeah. It just helps. It helped me frame, the direction that of everything else I wanted to do in life. And at the time when I went out, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And when I got back, I had a much more clear direction on those things. But yeah, it's super hard. And that's what I think is lacking in the world a lot, especially in America. I mean, we have things pretty dang good. Yeah. And yet there's a lot of complaining,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was talking to my wife last night, and she, it had been a long day at home with a lot of kids. And I came home and we were talking, and anyways, it came out where she said something like, because we're getting ready to buy a house. And so she said something like, well, I appreciate you working so hard. And I said, I guess, like, I used to tell my students when I was teaching at BYU Hawaii, like, the ability, because I work really hard, but it's all sitting here at a desk, and it's mental and it's communication, and it's a lot of, whatever pressures and other things. But I used to tell the students, like, if you could tell your great grandparent that you were working hard, and then they looked and saw you, they'd say, what are you talking about? You're not working hard. Like, you woke up and poured a bowl of cereal, and then like put on your comfortable shoes and
took a warm shower.
Yeah. Like
hopped in your Tesla.
Yeah. And then had to literally work the entire, like the idea that they had, just a couple generations ago, had to start at sun up and literally work the entire day until they went to bed, not for gain, but just to get it, just to have food. Like,
yep.
You didn't go
to survive.
Just to survive. You didn't go to the store and buy like macaroni and cheese. You created all of that by milking a cow to start and then going through the process you know what I'm saying? Like,
unbelievable.
So, and now we're like, oh yeah, man, I'm working hard. I'm grinding it out. It's like, no, I'm sitting at a computer for 8 hours or 9 hours, you know, and then
I know.
So,
but don't you think that that's the problem? I mean, just with society and what you see in the world is just a lack of gratitude for what people have done before you to create an opportunity for you to do the things you're doing. You know, I feel like if gratitude was more prevalent in our society, we'd shave off, 80% of the problems that we have just by exercising gratitude.
100%.
We have so much and we're so ungrateful for it. We think we deserve it all.
Yeah.
And it is kind of amazing. We complain about what we don't have when we have, what king from 200 years ago had air conditioning? Like nobody had that.
Exactly.
And what king had, Coco's restaurant to go to or something? Like the things that we can do in terms of choice and lifestyle, even if you're not rich, is just incredible because no king from 200 years ago could have dreamed of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, it's nuts. In that same store, the same process, obviously it's on my mind because we're going through it right now, but as we're looking to buy a home, you get so like, well, I don't know, like that one doesn't have and that one doesn't have, and I had to, and we're like in a house right now that's small, that like where we outgrew.
Small.
Yeah. And because we only have 3 bedrooms and I'm like, and I had to really like in these conversations so many times stop the conversation and say, let's take a deep breath and realize how 90+% of the world would view our decision making right now. Yeah. They would honestly be like, you don't like that house because it doesn't have crown molding. Like, what are you talking about? Or like that.
Not a hot tub in the master bedroom
in that house. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And my wife and I went with BYU. I went to the Philippines a couple years ago and helped with some stuff. And so, it was good to have that experience with her too, so that we can kind of pull ourselves back and be like, remember that house we were in with the tin roof and the dirt floor and the chickens coming in and out as they pleased? That was, let's have that as our kind of context for the decisions that we're making and approach it with a certain level of gratitude. Because I agree, man. And we all know this, like the best days that are had psychologically where I feel my best are the days where I'm truly focused on the abundance that I've been given and the great, and then looking, as you said, looking outside myself to where can I see opportunities to bless the people around me, even if it's my kids or my spouse or, other. And the worst days are the ones that I'm like caught up in something I'm working on that I think that I allow myself to get in a hole where I think that's the most important thing in the world. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, I don't know if you could, or if you know Jay Shetty, but you got to see if you grab him for this podcast. He just wrote a book called Think Like a Monk. And there's so much research that he provides in there, and just a lot of.
How do you spell his last name?
Shetty, I believe. Jay Shetty.
Cool. Yeah,
pretty well known.
You wrote a book. Speaking of books, Dads Who Stay and Fight. When did you write that?
Gosh, I think it was about 3 years ago.
What was the preface? What was the premise of the book? Why did you decide to write a book called Dads Who Stay and Fight?
In the first chapter I actually wrote a good portion of this book while I was on pretty much my first real vacation that I've taken since I started a business.
Yeah.
I worked so hard and took no time off and no real vacations. I still spent a lot of time with my kids and family and, wife and kids, and made them a priority, but never took any vacations. And we're in an RV going across the country for an entire month. And
do you recommend that trip?
Oh,
we've thought about doing that so many times. And
never pulled the trigger. Yeah. Especially nowadays where you can still stay in touch and work. But I think that my belief and the reason that I wrote the book was that, and just some conversations with some people. I don't know if you know Tim Ballard with Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about just the impact that a lack of fathers has on the human trafficking ordeal that we have in our world right now. And I've just seen it as well, where a lot of times dads, neglect their kids in the pursuit of what they deem as more. And, hey, I'm doing this for you and all that kind of stuff. And And I just felt like spending time, you only have a small amount of time with those kids, and they should be, they always talk about your golden years, down, which is like after your kids are out of the house and all that stuff. And I think the golden years are the years that you're with your kids, that your kids are growing up. So I'd actually rather work harder on my career after they're out of the house than spend my entire life in the pursuit of worldly greatness, money, cash, reserves, everything that you can think of while they're growing up. So that was really it. And there's also just a huge talk about a pandemic. There's a pandemic of fathers who leave their kids and let mom. We have a serious issue with moms being left to raise their kids by themselves, single moms, and it really affects our inner cities. It really affects the states and the world, really, when dads aren't around to stay in the house and provide support that way.
Did you have to do a ton of research for that? I mean, did you find yourself is it, or is it more storytelling, or is it more like data driven, kind of?
There's some data in there. It's not a huge, data driven book. It's more of just stories and logic, I guess. I hope.
Yeah. Cool. We need to get Tim Ballard on as well on the show. I've thought about that a couple of times as I've seen the work that those guys are doing.
Yeah, he's a great dude. But yeah, that was my first go. I had a 3-book deal. I actually published 4 books in 1 year, and that was probably the craziest year of my entire life. I don't know. I can't even comprehend doing that now, but that writing a book is a tough thing. I think I've seen Josh talked about that a lot. It's hard.
It is. Once you write a book, you appreciate what goes into it. It's a ton of work, and 4 in a year is no joke.
Yeah, that's that's incredible. Okay, so going back a little bit, I went down on a tangent here. So, after you came home from your mission and kind of went through this whole experience, obviously, I'm guessing came back with even more, desire to continue down the path that you had felt that night as a 21-year-old. What did you do in school? Did you go to college, and if so, what did you study?
I did. Yeah. I was, I was a 25-year-old just getting into college. I felt like the biggest loser. I started studying accounting. I was going to take over my dad's CPA firm, worked in that firm for about 4 years, changed my major into information security and networking and, information systems, and started an IT company in college. So I was hardly paying attention to the professors, but I was on my laptop running networks up and down Southern California coast of companies, managing their servers, securing their networks, things like that. So I got really into that. And that just kind of led me to, I enjoyed it until I started realizing that anything in the managed service provider in the IT field, it's a 24/7 gig. Yeah. You got to deal with a lot of crap. I mean, there's people that, they're just messing up their computers. They're looking at bad stuff. They're getting viruses, they're disaster recovery, hackers, networks going down. I mean, it is a grind. I have so much appreciation for people that manage the IT infrastructure of our businesses everywhere. But what really fascinated me and what I really loved was growing the business from an SEO standpoint. So I actually, once I had hired some people and they were taking care of the clients, I wanted to grow the business, but I was really bad at networking. I didn't want to go to like the BNI meetings. Yeah. I didn't want to hand out business cards to people. I wanted the phone to ring and for someone to say, "Hey, can you come solve my problem?" That was my idea of marketing. And that was back when none of our competitors that was in my field at the time, nobody really did SEO. And so it was really easy to rank for the top terms. And within about 6 months to a year, it was like we just blew up because we had so many people calling us.
And that was in California?
Yeah. Yeah. In Southern California. So I ended up realizing I did that, just focused on SEO and all that stuff for about 2 years. And then I ended up selling that company. And then that sort of funded my ability to start, Lemonade Stand, which is internet marketing agency.
And when did Lemonade Stand officially open its doors?
I would say that was about 2012, 2013.
And why the name? You can say other thing, but I'm curious. I've always wondered as we've worked together, what's the Lemonade Stand name? I mean, I think I get it, but I'm also curious the background.
Yeah. So there's two reasons. At the time, there was a really cool marketing agency called Orange Soda. You guys are familiar with them?
Yeah.
And I mean, they were like it in Utah, right? I mean, even in the nation, really, there was some, it was like Orange Soda and Yodel and some of these bigger, early Reach Local, all those guys that were just exploding. And I always loved the Orange Soda brand and what they were doing.
Whatever happened to Orange Soda?
They sold it about Deluxe, like a $4.2 billion check printing company up in.
Gosh.
So,
okay. I remember.
So there's actually a really interesting tie here, right? So I kind of modeled it after that, but the concept of Lemonade Stand is that each of us start a lemonade stand, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to serve businesses and we wanted to help them, quote unquote, sell their lemonade. Because what's the proverbial problem with a lemonade stand? You put all your heart and soul into making some lemonade. You set up a stand, you go and put it on your street, and guess what? Nobody buys your lemonade. You go back in the house with your lemonade and mom says, all right, lemonade goes in the fridge or down the drain. And that happens to, what's the percentage? 90% or so of small businesses that start.
Yeah.
They can't sell their lemonade. They're great product designers. They're great service people, but they have no idea how to sell it. They have no idea how to drive traffic to have people find them. So that was the concept behind that, is we just wanted to help people do that. And it was kind of the heart of all entrepreneurs, is a lemonade stand. But so what's super interesting is that all these years later, and just within the last year, in fact, about a year ago this month, one of the guys that founded Orange Soda, he actually came on and joined us here at Lemonade Stand as a partner. And so that's been super cool. His name's Derek Miner.
Yeah.
And,
full circle.
Yeah. Full circle. Right. I had no idea who the founders were of Orange Soda when I started Lemonade Stand. It was a random introduction when I moved to Utah, and, Derek's still in citrus.
Josh, did you ever do work with Orange Soda? Did MWI ever do anything back in the day with them?
I don't think we worked with them, but I knew a bunch of those guys I know Derek Miner. I know a bunch of the other guys who started it and who were part of the executive team. And so, yeah, they took one route. They took the highly scalable small business, more, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but the more systemic approach. And we took the more custom approach. And in terms of building a big business, the scalable systemic approach won out for sure.
Yeah. A lot of those companies came out of there too, Boostability and, some of those guys.
Big Leap.
Big Leap. In fact, Brian Phelps he worked on their SEO team. They hired him initially. Disruptive. I mean, all those agencies in Utah seem to come out of Orange Soda.
Yeah.
But, Derek,
SEO.com as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Derek is just a top-notch guy. It's been such a joy and amazing blessing having him here.
That's awesome. So do you guys focus on, I should know this because we do work with you guys, but do you focus on, it seems like the range in client size is kind of vast. I mean, are you focusing on a specific size client, or is it more, based on the partnership and the potential of the partnership? Or what Lemonade Stand right now is a marketing agency. What do you guys do?
Honestly, we just had this conversation yesterday with somebody, and the answer is yes and no on all of that.
We're the same. It's a tricky question to answer.
Our metric is it the right fit? That's the biggest metric. We want to work with cool people. We have no time for anybody that that, wants a dog to kick or
yeah. Our metric
someone,
is the same. Is it a win-win partnership?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's not, we're just very transparent. We do it all the time. Hey, we're probably not the best fit. Maybe you're too big for us. Maybe we don't have the expertise to handle you. Maybe your budget's misaligned with your expectations. Hey, we're not a good fit. So we just want to be working with really good people. And you're probably the same way. And most people are the same way, but not a lot of companies turn down business if they don't have to, but it's gotten to the point where when you work with good people, you can really feel the difference, the contrast between working with somebody that just doesn't want to be a good partner.
Yeah, I feel like culturally, the companies, from what I've seen in the communication we've had in the past, but also the research that I did before we talked today, and then also talking to you, culturally, our companies are very, very much aligned. Like the whole, I say all the time, exactly what you said at the top of the episode, which is you're going to spend half your life with us, or a third of your life with us. And we do not take that for granted. Because I tell all of our employees, look, I love our business. I love our partners. I love the growth we're seeing. I love the work that we're doing, whatever, but nothing comes before my faith in my family. Nothing at all. Like those two things will always be ahead. And when I tell employees that, they're like, why is the CEO on my first day at the job, putting the company that he's the CEO of, the third on the list?
Yeah.
But it resonates with people. They get it, they understand it, and they appreciate that.
Yeah. And letting them know that you expect them to do the same thing.
Exactly. We expect the same. And that abundance mentality kicks in where it's like, if we prioritize the right way, then things will work out. Yeah. And your clients will understand that. Your clients will feel that, but your team members will. And we have so many people, I love that you said it's the family that you choose. We've never put it into those words, but that comes up all the time, which is, that tight knit team of people that realize, I'm saying bye to my spouse and my kids, and I'm coming in and, at this point, logging into a Zoom and spending my day talking to these other people. It's critical, who those people are and what, we take that obviously really seriously when hiring, but I love to hear. And there, like you said, you say there's not a lot of businesses, but there are a lot of businesses that take all of the priorities that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. Money's the bottom line. That's it. Right. That's the priority. Oh,
absolutely.
And I don't care who the client is. I don't care how bad they treat us, or I don't care if we're doing good work or bad work, or if we're just, farming this out wherever and automating whatever, and hoping they never look at it, whatever it might be. There's a lot of ways that you can do that, but we're the same way, right? At the end of the day, it really does come down to, are we providing that value? And if we can provide that value, and if we can't, we have no problem saying this isn't the right fit. Right. Yeah. And I think there's a lot that comes with that exclusivity.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the blog. It seems like the Greg Trimble blog, is it something that you're still working on a lot, or is it kind of not getting as much attention as it did?
I've taken my foot off the gas a little bit. Just to, my kids have gotten a little bit older. I got a lot more going on. We've been hiring a lot more people. There's just a lot more things church wise. I'm into some stuff that's taking quite a bit of my time. And so I've taken my foot off the personal blog quite a bit.
So there's a lot of people that are Jewish or, Christian of some denomination or Catholic or whatever. And it's one thing to, live your religion and practice your religion and, do it within your home, or we go to church on Sunday or Saturday or whatever. It's another level to say, I am going to write about this. I'm going to take the time, energy, and effort to write out the whys and the hows of my faith. Yeah. And also in a way that's like getting at some very specific, this is why you should believe, or this is why you shouldn't believe. Some of the stuff that you've written is very insightful. And that's a whole different, like I said, it's a different level to go from just living it to saying, I'm going to actually share it. I'm going to write about it and get the word out there in some different ways. Where did that come from? Have you always been a writer? You're an incredible storyteller. I mean, you could tell like the foundation of the company itself that you've built is based on story, just like you just said, like narrative is obviously important to you. Obviously as a marketer, that's important to you, but where did this skill set of becoming a great storyteller and then turning that into writing? I mean, you've written books and you've written hundreds of blogs. Where does that come from?
Yeah. What's funny, Corey, is that I was horrible at first. And that's one of the things I try to give advice to people, because hey, well, I want to do what you did. I say, well, just do it. You're going to be horrible. I try to adopt the done is better than perfect. No paralysis by analysis, type deal. When I look at the stuff that I wrote initially, it was horrible. Yeah. I mean, absolutely horrible. I can't believe anybody read it and shared it. But as far as, what drove me to do that, I was teaching a lot. I have this desire to teach. I love to teach. And I didn't feel like I had as many opportunities to teach. And I thought, gosh, I can just start a blog. Honestly, at the heart of it was I wanted to leave a journal, a digital journal for my kids. And I wanted people to know, where I stood on things. And so I just started writing, just different things that I had written over the years that I felt inspired to write about. And for some reason, this is back in the day when Facebook was like, you hardly even had business pages that you could promote, and your personal profile got a ton more traction than it does today. And so I just started posting those things, and for some reason they got picked up, and it's, started getting shared. And, soon after it was hitting millions, tens of millions, just going viral. And I had no idea. Our server kept crashing. I wasn't collecting email addresses. I wasn't monetizing anything. I mean, there was, it was just a labor of love. And I just wanted to leave everything that I could out there so that people would know where I stood on certain topics.
And it's been, shared, like you said, it's been, a lot of this content has been seen tens of millions of times. It's been there. Yeah. Back in the good old days of Facebook, where if you posted something to your feed, everybody that followed you was going to see it, right? If they scrolled long enough. Right.
Yeah.
So it was, but again, I'm sure a lot of that content would still have gone viral today just because of the nature of the content. What was that transition like to where now your name was recognized, whether it was you're just commenting on something else on Facebook and people are like, oh, this is the guy that writes that content, or did you get recognized at church or out and about in the community? Was there a transition there where you had viral content that people had seen and read that many times? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it wasn't very fun, honestly.
Well, there's entire YouTube videos, like dedicated. A lot of them dedicated to this is why Greg Trimble's content
is an idiot.
Yeah. So that was my next question.
People making memes and creating all kinds of Photoshop things and videos, and just had people like literally like bearing false witness against me. Like, I saw Greg at, so-and-so, like people that just direct hatred, making up stuff. So that part wasn't fun. But I also think that part of that is my problem, allowing myself to, and this happens, this is natural. You guys have probably experienced this as well. 100 people could say something really, really kind and nice to you. And then the ratio is one person out of those 100, if it's 10 million, then there's that ratio goes up. So there's a lot more, but allowing that one out of 100 to say something negative and to drag you down. And then you sit there and focus on what the one negative person is saying about you. And it really it really eats at you. And my wife would just say, why are you focused on what this one person is saying when you have all these other people that are out, being helped by the stuff you're writing? And that was something that I had to learn. And I hope that I've learned that better now. And apply that to anything I do now and going forward, is that you just can't focus on what one negative person is saying. You just got to push forward if you know what you're doing is right.
Yeah. The need for approval. A lot of people have that. I think most people have that, like a need. And I was just thinking about this recently in a similar situation on the work front. Like there was a couple of things going really, really well, but there was just this one deal that it wasn't working. I'm like, why aren't they getting, why aren't they responding? And my wife kind of called me on that as well, where it was like, weren't you saying all the other like 5 things that were growing great, that people were so ecstatic and you got this type of feedback and they're really excited, whatever. Why are you worried about the one single thing that didn't go right? It's like, again, it goes back to that gratitude, right? It's like, oh yeah, let me refresh, let me restart, take a step back here and a deep breath, and then look at this.
Yeah.
But that being said, that viral sensation nature to what happened, and again, obviously it was within certain communities, but I imagine the anxiety and the burden that came with that. It's not like you saw one comment. Like I said, there's 30, 45-minute videos that have your name in them that are all about why that's everything you said is not true and not right. And they're trying to discredit you from the second the video starts. I mean, when you were going through that, what were some of those emotions that you went through, and what were some of the lessons you learned in order to kind of find hope in the end? That, I'm guessing that was a lot, maybe even more tricky than you've said.
Yeah,
so
no,
far.
it took a long time. I probably still struggle with it, but it created a lot of anxiety on both ends, both from the negative and then also on the positive, people that were needing help. I felt like I became sort of like an internet counselor, like 24/7. It was almost like another full-time job where people would, email in and comment and ask for help and direct message. Hey, I've got this situation I'm going through. Can you help me? Can you give me some advice? And that, both of those, they were equally rewarding as far as learning how to deal with those things. I mean, you guys have probably both experienced this as well, just as, people asking you to do stuff, trying to figure out what to say no to and what to say yes to. I started speaking around. In fact, I went and spoke in Boston at a multi-stake thing there, where you're at. And it's like, I was starting to do so much stuff that I couldn't say no to everybody. So there's a multiple thing. There's so many things that came out of just this experience, trying to learn how to balance everything, and when to say no and when to say yes, and when to read a comment and when to just ignore it. But it's hard because you're like, I want to know what they said. I want to know why they feel that way. Why don't you like me?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dude, people are just not going to like, sometimes people are just not going to like you. They just might not like you just because of the way your face looks. I remember
this says a lot about, oftentimes it's the other people too, right? I mean, they might have some sort of insecurity or something, and by attacking you, it's their way of building themselves up. And it really has nothing to do with you. It's just them, but it's still hard to take. Yeah. Oh, it's really hard to take. It's so weird that it's so hard to take. You think you can just, I'm not going to look at that. Wait, but what if they said something that I need? It's just funny, but yeah.
So what advice would you give at this point then, having been through that kind of the ring, that's a lot to go through. And a lot of people deal with that on a smaller scale, whether it's, teenagers that are on social media that are dealing with getting bullied or something, or not what's the advice that you would give to kind of, overcome that, given that you went through the refiner's fire on that?
Yeah. I'd say the most succinct advice I can give is to ask yourself honestly, who is it that you're trying to impress? And if you can align yourself and your actions with who you're trying to impress and who you're trying to please, and then just push forward and do what you know is right. There's a poem called The Man in the Glass, and gosh, what an amazing poem, especially for anybody, whether it's religious or business or just trying to live your life. Can you look in the mirror and are you happy with what you see looking back? And just finding out what that is. If it's God that you're trying to please, then worry about what God thinks. If it's yourself, if it's your wife, your kids, find out who means the most to you, and make sure that you're aligning your actions with them instead of worrying about all the different voices that are out there.
Yeah. Do you, it seems to me that you have a knack, from what I've seen on, on your social media and on your posts and on the blogs and stuff, that you have a knack for distilling like lessons learned or observations that you've seen in your own personal life or in the world around you, and then distilling these things down into teachable principles. I'm able to, and I think that's a gift, because a lot of times it's not something, and that goes back to being a good storyteller and a good writer, having built that, that muscle up, having done it a lot. But do you have a process for that at all? Like, do you have a process for, or I don't know, even if you can think like back to like when that's happened, is it like do you take a lot of time to kind of meditate on these things and think over these things and then like come out with something and you write it down? You know what I mean? Like, what's your process for kind of coming up with some of these principles, whether it's in your business and building out a culture or your family or whatever?
Yeah. I think it was Ernest Hemingway. He said, like, when you get writer's block or if you can't write, he said, just sit down and write the truest sentence that you know. Well, and that's really what I've tried to do, is to just sit down and things that, the truest thing that I know, the thing that I feel most strong about, and being completely and 100% vulnerable and honest about it, not trying to put up a front. That's been, sort of my process. And then what happens after I do that is my entire college education, I probably learned one thing that I feel like has benefited me throughout the duration of my life, especially as it pertains to writing. It just talks about writing relationally and talking to people as if you are having a conversation with them. Like right now, as I'm talking to you, you notice I just made a conjunction. I didn't say I am. I said what I'm saying to you, or all these different things. And so what I would do is, after I would go and write a blog or something, then I would go back and read it and ask myself, do I sound like that when I'm talking to another person? They say that the average understanding of an American reading something is about a 5th grade reading level. And so if you're writing at a 12th grade reading level, or a college reading level, you're writing academic, it might appeal to a certain subset of people, but it's going to be a very small subset. It's not going to be universally adopted. And so every time I write something, I read it back and I say, gosh, would I ever not use a conjunction there? Would I ever say, I am going to the store, to you? It's like, no, hey man, I'm going to the store, and just making it highly relational, and so that you can build a personal connection with the reader and the people that you're writing to.
One of the biggest compliments. So a lot of our lead flow in business over the years has come from Josh's writing, because obviously, Josh is a big time writer. And so one of the compliments that I get most on behalf of Josh is that that's something that he does, is he writes very, it's very frank and very conversational and very, it's not like,
it's very honest.
Yeah. Very honest. Yeah. That's actually the word that I get a lot. I'm glad you said that, because that's a lot of what it's like, man, I read this thing from your founder, from your CEO on Forbes, and he just seemed really honest and straightforward and transparent. And I'm like, yeah, if you know Josh, that's exactly, all of those words describe him very, very well. So
I have the exact same rule that you do, Greg. I try to write at a 5th grade level. Not that I think my readers are 5th graders, but that's the level at which you can write or speak, and people don't have to think about the words. They can just process it. It's just pure transfer of information.
Exactly.
But when you get fancy, people get hung up on the words, and they're like, wait, what does that word mean? And what is he trying to say here? But at a 5th grade level, you're just communicating.
They tune out.
Yeah.
And you can distill really complex topics and communicate really complex things in really simple words. And if you can do that, you're going to have a lot more people that are actually going to benefit from the things that you're saying. But you have done a great job of that, Josh. I've read your stuff over the years, and it's definitely done that. Yeah.
Well, there is the quote, and I don't remember by who, but it's in Preach My Gospel. And it is, the greatest teachers are those that can take the mysteries of the universe and teach them to a small child and have them understand it, and that's true in whatever case. I actually use that in a lot of sales trainings, like, because your job in sales, or your job or as a parent, is to know everything, or at least know as much as you can about the product, the service, or whatever, but be able to communicate it with this much information, and then come here when you need to, and then come a little bit more if you need to, but try to get the message sent with this, right? But be ready to give all of the information. But most people are going to understand it if you simplify it quite a bit. So,
yeah.
So what is what's on the horizon right now? It sounds like Lemonade Stand's made some big changes. I know you guys came up. I'm trying to remember that. What's the name of the software that you guys launched a year or so ago? And
it's called Yalla. Gosh, and that's interesting. You know, I have this big audience of people that would want to read religious type things from me. I can't figure out how to grow a SaaS. You know, it's tough, and it's a red ocean bloodbath out there.
We have and I remember we talked about this, and there was, when we spoke initially, you were kind of just about ready to launch it, I think, and you were like, "Yeah, we'll roll it out." Yeah. Anyways, we need to talk about it again. But I will tell you that one of our clients we're looking at building in a software solution for them to help automate a lot of what we're paying people good money to do, and they're trying to. And I have this guy that I'm working with. That we've worked together on some projects over the years, but that's what he does. And so I got on a sales call, which you get me on a marketing sales call or whatever. It's like no brainer. I don't, but I was now realized, oh, this is different. I'm trying to sell this customer who already is a big cut. Like it's not like I'm going in with they've been a client for years and they paid us a lot of money and they love us and we're in a great relationship, but I had to try to sell a software solution. And I realized I had no idea how to do it. Like I didn't have the tool belt to explain anything. Like, it's like, well, what does it do? I'm like, well, I mean, this is what it does, but like features and benefits and like how to understand. I was like, oh, I got to study up on this if I'm going to try to do this. So I hear you on the ability to kind of market and sell. It's
really tough. And it's really tough to compete in that space without raising a lot of money. Every single company in that space, it's not Basecamp days, right? Basecamp, back in the day, hey, there's hardly any competitors. We're going to build a project management solution. We'll scale without raising money.
We still use Basecamp for our
Basecamp's awesome.
Yeah.
But, that's been a challenge. So, not to leave you with the negative, but that's just frank. That's just honest. I had love to, we're going to start asking people like, what, it's just hard to get eyeballs on that stuff because there's so much noise out there and to get, once we demo somebody with all the data in there and they can see what it does, they're immediately in. They're like, but how do we get them into a demo? That's tough. So we're,
that's been on the other side of that a lot, right?
Yeah.
In your role as an agency owner, like I've been asked to be given a demo so many times that I've been like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not, I've got, I've been on demos where I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it is, there's a way to do it though. We got to figure it out. There's a way, there's a way to knock it out of the park.
Yeah. But, I'd say our primary thing on the horizon is just continuing to grow what we're doing. We're really excited about our podcast, the quality of people that we've been having on our podcast, similar to what you guys have been doing. I don't know if you can see, this is kind of our mantra. It's everything's just distilled down to that. And we're just trying to build a really cool culture. We give all of our team members each month, they have a fund, to Build Them Blessed fund. And their goal is to go out and find somebody, no matter where they might be, and to give them something, to buy their meal, to buy them some shoes, like a very hand-to-hand, eye-to-eye, person-to-person, not just like, oh, we're going to go find a nonprofit and who knows where the money goes. And we want to hold a check up and get a picture. Like, we want our team members. And so every Friday we do a lunch and learn, and it's really been cool because every Friday turns into almost like a weekly devotional, because each of our team members will share what that opportunity and what that experience was for them to actually have dedicated funds that are set aside each month for them to go out and find somebody to bless. And so that's been something that we've really been focused on. We're also just really trying to shine a light on other cool creators and things that are being done well, similar to you guys, just to instill hope. Have people tell we call them lemonade stand stories, where, what was your lemonade stand moment? What was, when did life hand you lemons and you turned it into lemonade? Those sorts of things are something that we're really excited about.
Awesome.
If the software blows up, great. That'll be lots of money, but, it's not something that we're hyper focused on. We're more focused right now on figuring out how to tell cool stories.
How are those PR deals working out so far?
They're awesome. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the time. I feel like, again, I love these conversations because a lot of, like yourself, you're a great example of somebody that I've seen around. I've even done some business with and spoken with you on the phone, but then to kind of go layers deeper and hear more of the background and the story and really get some good nuggets of wisdom, for you taking the time to do that with us means a lot. So we appreciate it, man. It's good talking to you and good catching up.
I'm happy to. And maybe you guys will like to be on our podcast sometime.
Yeah, let us know. I'd love to.
I know you guys have some lemonade stand stories.
For sure. Seriously, yeah. Keep us posted. I'd love to do it. Love to return the favor.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Greg. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. See you guys. Appreciate it.
Hello, it's Corey here, and I just want to thank you so much for listening into the Hope Strategy podcast. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are enjoying having these amazing conversations with these incredible individuals talking about hope. We'd love it if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, and share it with anybody you feel that can benefit from these messages of hope. Thank you so much for listening to the Hope Strategy podcast.